Welcome back to the third episode of Glory Glory. Alongside Jeff Dantzler, I'm Trey Littlefield. Hope you've enjoyed the first two episodes. Excited about today. We got Keidane McAlpine coming on, and also a little peek behind him in enemy lines. We'll have Steve Cotton, the Marshall radio guy, coming on with us today.
I love that. And Trey, you do such a great job gathering everyone here. Keidane, you talk about somebody who's easy to root for. He has done an unbelievable job with the Georgia soccer program. Got another great team this year, an incredible home schedule, and then with Steve, who is a fantastic play-by-play announcer. Obviously, Marshall with a phenomenal history and a special place in our hearts with Coach Donnan coming from Marshall to Georgia. And always like talking, and Trey, you and I have done a lot of shows together through the years there, but I always loved talking with broadcasters there, getting the good stories. And I know they're excited to come down to Athens for the season opener.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, the broadcaster seems to know more about the team than anybody, maybe the athletic trainer, team doctors, people like that. So looking forward to getting Steve Cotton's perspective on Marshall. They've got an entirely new roster this year. It's kind of the era we're in with the transfer portal. We'll talk about that. 72 new players on the roster.
And I think part of that, too, that's interesting, and I'm sure this is what was going through Kirby's head. I can't imagine his staff, which is so incredible. I think about the crew that does all the breaking down of tape. They're having to find, all right, the quarterback's a transfer from so-and-so, the receivers from so-and-so, the offensive, they're going, all right, we got to find film of Jacksonville State. Oh, we got to go find film of Penn State, of Washington, whoever it might be. So trying to put all that together, that's just part of the areas of, what it takes a village these days. I would imagine Kirby's, I get it's tape, the accurate word, use that film, whatever.
Yeah, film, tape, whatever it is.
That staff, I will promise you, has been working double time.
That's right. You volunteered to help, right?
I'd love to, man. You know me, I'm a football junkie.
Well, Jeff, appreciate it. We're looking forward to a great show today. Talk to Keidane McAlpine, Steve Cotton. That's coming up next here on the Glory Glory podcast. Welcome back alongside Jeff Dantzler. Welcome back to the Glory Glory podcast. Excited about our next guest, Keidane McAlpine, the head coach of our women's soccer team, who went out and scheduled a bunch of scrubs to start the season. I mean, no.
Least I could do.
You recognize some of those names? UCLA, North Carolina, Michigan,
Woo, man.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? You're seeing what your team's made of early on.
Absolutely.
Talk about your team and what you've seen from them so far.
I'm excited. I think probably the biggest thing that I'm most excited about is that they've already started to bond. With over half our team being new, you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
It's like they've been together for a really long time. And I think it shows. In that very first game, you saw the energy, you saw some of the connection. Yeah, we made some mistakes, and it was against a great opponent, and they got there one moment, and we didn't. However, I thought we played extremely well, and I think both teams walked away going, oh, okay, this is going to be a good season for both of us.
Keidane, one of the things I love about this team, too, we've talked about this with Kirby. Now, in this day and age of college athletics, you really have to have that contribution from all four classes. You got to have the freshman impact, obviously your sophomores, your juniors, your seniors, your transfers, everything. I love the mix on this team. And I'm telling you, at Georgia, we're a little partial to freshmen because of number 34 back in 1980. I love this freshman class. But they're going to win some hardware for us.
Absolutely. This group is the first group that got to see us put a product on the field and make their decision. And because of it, I think, we got some people and some women that they chose to come to Georgia because they were looking at it and going, hey, we can do something great here, even though we haven't been able to see it yet. And then it just so happens 2023 came and they were like, oh, I'm glad I made this choice. And they want to come and they want to do great things.
What I like about what you're telling your team, you're telling them, we want to accomplish something that hasn't been done here yet. Tell us a little bit about that mantra for your team.
Well, we were blessed to win the national title at Southern Cal. There's nothing like it. But one of the emotions I had was a little bit of anger because there were so many other teams that could have been just as good, just as close, that gave up on themselves so early. These women, and our message to them is, well, we've seen what it looks like. We've seen what it takes. We know it can be done and be done better here. We've got more here that can allow this team to be successful. And all of these women have bought into that idea, bought into that thought. They have that mentality, and we're going to continue to bring those kind of women here. We won a national title for Georgia. We won a national title for the SEC. We won a national title in women's soccer to put on the mantle. It hasn't been done, and we think we can do it here.
Well, a couple of years ago, Georgia had never won an SEC
Yep.
championship. Keidane leads a team to an East Division title and the tournament title. 3 straight years of the NCAA tournament. And for Keidane, going back to his Washington State days, this is incredible to me. 13 straight years
Unbelievable.
in the NCAA tournament. That consistency, your resume is just sparkling. That's got to rank up at the top of your list of accomplishments. So be it in the tournament every year.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody wants to play in the big dance. You know, all the other tournaments are great and fun, but everybody wants to have at least a chance. And some great years were great, and some years are like last year where you just feel like you lost an opportunity. But we put ourselves in that position, and that's the expectation. That's the ground floor. We plan to be there every year. That is where we start, and then we work our way to try to get some bigger hardware.
Yeah, those teams that have won, you mentioned the national championship at USC in 2016, the SEC championship here. What's different? How are those teams built? What's different about, is it the leadership? Is it the togetherness? What makes those teams unique?
Honestly, it's a little bit of all that. It's a lot of times it's their willingness to get out of each other's way and
Yeah.
just enjoy each other and play together and be unified in it. All the teams are talented. Typically, there is one talent player or two that kind of help lift it when it's tight and win a game that maybe was in the balance. And you're always looking for that next player to take that step. But it's always about the connection. It's always about the belief. The belief is mandatory for big time success.
And you talk about connection and belief. Your coaching staff lives it. Talk a little bit about your coaching staff. Jake Stanley, our sports information director, does a phenomenal job. I know he goes to trivia every week with your coaching staff, and he's undefeated. He always wins.
Listen, Jake is the man.
He just got engaged.
He is the MVP of our trivia. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He did. But talk about your connection as a staff. You don't see that all the time.
It helps that I've been able to hold on to people, and it starts with Jason. Jason and I, preschool and up, U6 soccer, the whole thing. We've lived a life together. It's my brother. We've always been in the mix together, and it starts there. And then we're I'm blessed enough to have Sammy, who I recruited, got to watch her play, got to coach with her, then watch her go off and make her own way, and then now come back with us at SC and join us here. So got to see that, and so it's family. And then Kat's dad coached us as when we were kids, and so we got to watch Kat grow up. Rade, known her for 20 years. Tatum, known her for 20 years. Like, you can go on and on. We are connected and bonded, whether it's, it's Dr. Dillon with Sports Psych. He was with us at SC. Whether it's Bonita, who was our masseuse out at SC, who's come back. We try to make sure we're bonded, we're living it. Kelly, and everybody who was here, we've brought them into the fold, whether it's Kelly, whether it's Morgan. We just added Jasmine, and it's like she's been here forever. So anybody and everybody who touches our program, Jana, we've tried to bring them into the family because we think it's that important to the overall success.
I want to tell a couple. So this kind of goes back to preconception of Keidane here at Georgia. That when the job was opening up, Tatum Clowney Hodge, who used to do the TV broadcast with me, she kept going, I'm telling you, the guy at Southern Cal is a natural. That's who we need to hire. That's who we need to hire. Of course, Josh Brooks, boom.
Great hire.
No-brainer, hired it there. And I fell in love with this guy. He popped in. Keidane, you've heard me tell the story so many times. The first time we met, it was a Georgia baseball game.
Yep.
So he came in and sat with me and Dave Johnson for a couple of innings. And I know you love baseball. You grew up playing everything. And I just finally go, Keidane, because there's so much talent in this city. He goes, Georgia soccer, a sleeping giant. And he goes, not anymore. And I was ready to.
Not afraid of the expectations from the start.
I loved it.
Not at all.
I loved it. So that was that was my first memory of meeting you. Not anymore. Maybe we could do a T-shirt that says that there.
You know what? I like that idea. We'll find that
Well,
one.
I want to ask you got the best TV announcer in the country.
Absolutely. Energy all the time.
All the time.
And his ideas about the game and what needs to change, always on point.
Smartest man
Always
in the
on
room.
point.
Smartest man in the room. Do you ever go back and listen to his TV
Oh, yeah.
broadcast?
You have to. I go back and watch almost every broadcast.
Does he have some kind of like a really good unique goal call or anything like that you can
The
share?
ones that are unexpected, you can always tell
Yeah.
when it's unexpected.
Yeah.
When he gets excited, it's like nothing else.
Well, thank you. Gosh, hang on, let me pay you guys. It is. And I think another thing too that's so great about Keidane. I'm not naming names here of other schools, but you see a lot of teams, and soccer by nature is usually a lower scoring sport. Yeah. Most of the games are. A lot of teams, if they're up 1-0, 1-0, they're just going to put all 11 back and just try and win that game 1-0. At Georgia, we stay on the attack. It's a fun style to watch. Our fans absolutely love that because there's action going on the whole time. And I remember we talked before your first game. You said, oh, yeah, we're going to keep the pace of play up because in the end, you always want to win. But to me in sports, especially now there's so much competition for eyeballs from fans, I think teams, there's almost a duty there to put that good and exciting product on the field.
It's got to be entertaining. Why would I come sit out in the heat and watch if it's not entertaining? You know, we are still in the entertainment business. You want people to support you. You want people to come back. And to be fair, you want the players to have fun. And it's fun scoring goals. It's not always fun defending them. So let's go get the ball back and let's go again.
Keidane looks like a natural holding that microphone. I don't know if you know this. Here we go. I know he doesn't want to talk about it, but a music career at one time.
Yeah, I was a music business major, but it started in high school. High school, we were at an arts magnet school, and so music was the choice. And used to sing a little bit, and thought I was good, but really not.
We will not ask you to sing.
Thank
on this
you.
podcast.
Those days are long gone. But no, it was a good time. It was. I actually thought I was going to be in Atlanta working in the music industry. Realized I'm not evil enough for that industry, and you know what? Teaching, coaching. I got to watch my parents be educators my entire life, and this was the right way to go. So.
You mentioned your parents, your dad, professor at Alabama A&M.
Yeah.
You had to learn a little bit from him. Talk about how he kind of guided you through.
Both of them. My mom's secondary ed teacher, dad, dean of students, professor, all the things. Every day we were teaching. Every day we were learning process. You know, we were learning how to make a game plan, how to plan out this, that, and the other, and so. They were always inspirational in that regard, as well as thinking about how you treat people, the human aspect of it. Our house was always open. We always had people hanging out. We were always trying to help people, and I think those things are just as important when it comes to teaching. We're in the people business. We're in the human business, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I just want to say too. Every one of the young ladies who's played in our program through the years that I've gotten to know, these are just incredible kids. And I think with the amount of running, the training, they're all great students too. You've got to have something in your DNA, something in your genes to be able to do this. These midfielders, they might run 7-8 miles in a given game there. So to have that kind of dedication, you're kind of recruiting from a very talented pool as it is, but they are just great kids, and they want to do good, and they want to make you proud. They want to make their parents proud. They want to make our fans proud. So just for our fans, these are Georgia Bulldogs that you can be very, very proud of.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is when we got here, I think it was like a run of 4 semesters in a row, we set a new academic record for our team, right? They compete, and that's what we ask. In the classroom, in life, in general, they compete, and that's what I really love about our team. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't go back and retroactively put the TV guys' GPA
in
there because it would have plummeted.
More sports information. We don't talk about that.
Trey and I together, 4-0, baby.
Yeah. Maybe.
Get the right semester.
That's right. Well, Keidane, you got married a couple years ago.
Yes.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
On finding someone to marry. I mean, how did you?
Listen, she found me. Let me tell you, in our business, you have to have somebody who one can put up with you being always preoccupied, always thinking about the next play, the next recruit, the next this, the next that. But I'll give her a lot of credit. She slows me down. She helps me think about certain other things and just life in general and relax a bit. But luckily, she had been in sports. She had worked inside athletic departments and pro teams, and so she gets it. She understands. She's been behind the scenes, behind the curtain. She's extremely talented in video and editing and all the things, and a producer, editor, all the things. So extremely talented. So I'm blessed.
Well, and I think that we're just so happy for you as well. And one of the things, too, I've always said, I've had so many close friends who've been coaches, head coaches at Georgia. And I know it's hard to do this, but I'll always say, enjoy that. Just stop and smell the roses. And sometimes, like, we might win the national championship. All right, we got to go out recruiting the next day. But it is so important to enjoy that journey and to smell the roses along the way. Has she helped you in that regard?
Absolutely. I think I took one of my first real vacations in a really long time.
Maybe since like
this past summer. And you have to. You have to take that moment, and we've been very deliberate about going to see family and taking that time. And I've always tried to do it, but it's usually wrapped around a recruiting trip somewhere. Now it's a little bit more deliberate and just slowing down and getting away. And it helps to have good people, and it helps not to be in the first 2 years. But at the end of the day, she's been a big catalyst to slow things down.
Yeah. Speaking of your family, a sister that played at South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So who's the better soccer player?
I mean, I'm going to say me every time. But no, she was extremely talented.
Yeah.
She was fortunate enough to well, one, that's part of the reason I started coaching. My mom told me, hey, your sister needs a coach, and you're going to coach. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm coaching. And so that was my very first team. Jason had a little boys team. I had her team, and we were each other's assistants, and we coached those teams. But she was extremely talented, played at South Carolina. Shelly and Jamie came in, I think, in her junior year. So, and they were fortunate enough to let me coach against her one time. I got my butt kicked, but one time, mom and dad could sit in the stands and watch both children play at the same time.
So if you can coach your sister, you can coach anybody.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
But honestly, she was one of the best people. She didn't worry about it was me. She treated me just like anybody else would, and I feel like I did the same for her. Although some days I'm sure I got into her a little bit, but she was extremely talented, so smart. Now she's a vet and killing life and doing all the things.
Yeah, another great thing here. I talk about that authenticity with Kirby and Mary Beth, who went to school here. Josh is so great. Obviously the leadership from President Moorhead on down. Just the goal at Georgia to be successful in everything. And I know for you, if you got a recruit coming in, Kirby and Josh, they're wanting to meet. They're wanting to help, wanting to win and everything. Not every school is like that. We're so blessed to have that here at Georgia.
Absolutely. The entire department, everybody goes out of their way to make sure that they're, one, invested in it, and two, that was probably the biggest draw, right? I've been a lot of great places, a lot of great facilities, a lot of great talent, but when it really comes down to it, you need support. You need to be pushing in the same direction, and you need to have people who have a similar vision. And from President Moorhead to Josh to Stephanie, I felt like everybody here was about everybody winning, and everything that was going to be done for everybody to have as much success as possible.
And we do need to mention Stephanie Yerum Ransom. She was Georgia's first All-American. And
Two-time.
Two-time, yeah.
She works in the athletic from Gainesville, Georgia, Red Elephant.
Right.
And so to have her obviously being an administrator on the staff, as a player, just knowing a lot of the ins and outs, it's just a great ally to have.
It's funny. I was asked about, the alumni. And starting there, it makes life a whole lot easier because she can reach so many of the alumni. But also having been at another SEC school and recruited against or coached against or scouted against so many of them, I felt like I knew a lot of them already. So this always felt like home. But it's because of the Stephanie Yerums, because of the alumni, because there is a rich tradition of soccer, of football here at Georgia. And now look what's happening in the state. Atlanta United is killing it. U.S. Soccer moved to Georgia. All those things are massive positives.
And I think that's huge. We talk about the administration being behind it. The community's now behind it.
Yeah.
We go out to the first soccer match. The place is packed. I mean, how important is it to have that community behind you?
You know what? The best compliment I can give our fans is that a player, a recruit that went to another school visit, said the other team was talking about our fans and how great our fans were at the
There
game.
we go.
That's
What
the
you
best
want.
positive
Yep.
that you can have. And it's so important to the team. You know, the team, they're going to work their tails off because they want to win. Their competitors. But when you bring that little extra energy, when you've got that fight from your fans and your fan bases with you and on top of the game, and you can hear the oohs, the ahs, and the
Man,
cheers.
soccer's fun.
It's fun.
Soccer's so fun.
Especially if you get into all the small tackles and runs and moves and all the things. You know, it's nothing like having our fans
We had
with us.
Yeah.
We had a game, it had to be moved to 11 a.m. against Albany. And so I pull up about 9:15 to get there early. Already a tailgate tent
There we
going
go.
up.
Tailgate.
And I was just like, well, man, that's impressive. It was great. So I'm kind of getting those scrambling. That helped get me in the mood there. But it is a great atmosphere. And I would just encourage all of our fans,
Absolutely.
whether we're playing on a Thursday or a Sunday. And obviously we have our regulars, but if you're in for a football weekend, come out. It's so much fun. It's also very kid friendly.
Absolutely.
Very kid and canine friendly, because on the hill, that's opposite from where I am, down to your left as you're on the bench.
Yeah.
When the berm up there is packed, that is a great sight.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that we've got so many young kids that come to the game now, the community's in, the fact that we get those dogs on the hill, and they're loud, there's energy. But we're hoping that these young women, even the young boys, get excited by what's happening on the field. They get invested in the players, because somebody should come out of this city and go play at an elite level. And that's what we want to also build. We want to be tied to the community in that way. We want the community to have that same kind of vibe. And so, you know, we might be involved in a little local club now, trying to get them right. So we're trying to do it all the way down from the youth all the way through the college.
Hashtag not anymore.
What hasn't been done yet.
He
I
is
like it.
just, I mean, talk about a guy who's just easy to root for.
awesome.
He's awesome.
So easy, so easy. Well, Keidane, we appreciate it. We're all your biggest fans. Everybody at the University of Georgia, I know I speak for them. You know, we're going to be your biggest fans as you try to accomplish what hasn't been done yet.
Absolutely.
Let's get it done this year. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks so much. Go Dogs.
Hey, Dog Nation. If you want more original content from Georgia Athletics, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Georgia Bulldogs Athletics.
And Glory Glory Podcast is also available to listen on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Go Dogs!
All right, welcome back to Glory Glory at Georgia Bulldogs Podcast. Today we are going behind the scenes of Marshall Athletics, talking with esteemed radio announcer Steve Cotton, 14-time West Virginia Sportscaster of the Year. So happy to have Steve here, Jeff. Steve, I'm sure you're busy getting ready for the season. Just tell us a little bit, maybe a quick 30-second version of Marshall and where you guys are at right now.
Unknown, guys. And this is not unique to Marshall, but Marshall did have an unusual, if not unique, situation when Coach Charles Huff won the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, and a couple of days later was announced as the new head coach at Southern Miss in the conference, goes to a conference rival, and at last count, I think there are around 25 members of Marshall's championship team from last season who now play at Southern Miss. So we have even more than the normal amount of turnover.
Yeah, I think I saw a number. I know those numbers vary, but 72 new players on your 105-person roster. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, it is, and it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was talking with a young broadcaster the other day. I said, you know what? It wasn't all that long ago when, in preparing for a season, I had to get to know about 15 new guys who might play.
Yeah.
And now it's 60 of them who probably will play in the opener that you have to get up to speed on. Not that that is something you can't overcome, but it's just a sign of the different world we live in from just even a decade ago.
Steve, for you with Marshall, I just think about, number one, what a great football program it's been through the years. Such an incredible history there, too. Did you and Coach Donnan cross over for a year or two?
Certainly did.
Wow.
Coach Donnan was here in the early 1990s, 89 through 95, and I was here the last 3 years that he was here. I was the Marshall sideline reporter for the first couple of those seasons, and then moved into the color analyst position. And then my predecessor left, and I've been the play-by-play guy since 1996. And for any young wannabe radio guys, that was the year that Randy Moss showed up at Marshall University. It was their
What
last
luck.
year of what we now call FCS. They went 15-0, had no game within 2 touchdowns, and no matter how good or bad I was, everybody was happy with me because all I said was touchdown heard and Marshall wins.
Well, you had 2 years of Moss, 54 touchdowns. I guess what were Pennington and Cresser, the 2 quarterbacks there. And for Coach Donnan, obviously building Marshall into a national powerhouse. I love Coach D, and of course he was Kirby's coach, and just how much he's meant to both programs. There was a stretch there at Marshall too. I always joke about this, like when Lee Moon was the athletic director. Yeah, Coach Donovan was a football coach. A young Billy Donovan was the basketball coach. Howie McCann was the baseball coach, and he was the head recruiter who recruited most of the players for our 1990 national championship team at Georgia. And he had a young graduate assistant named David Perno who came back to his alma mater. David was on our 1990 championship team and led us to 3 College World Series here at Georgia. So there's just this intertwine. What Marshall had going on in the 1990s was really incredible. And I just think about the coaches that came out. It was absolutely amazing.
It was. Dave Perno and I were graduate assistants at Marshall at the same time.
That's awesome.
So knew Dave at that point. And you talk about Billy Donovan, hired at, I think, 28 years old to be Marshall's head coach from the University of Kentucky. Billy's staff of assistants here at Marshall included John Pelfrey, who went on to become a head coach in the Southeastern Conference, Anthony Grant, who went on to become a head coach in the Southeastern Conference and is now at the University of Dayton, Donnie Jones, who became a head coach in Marshall and later at Central Florida, now at Stetson, and a couple of his grad assistants became college head coaches. It was an incredible time to be at Marshall, an incredible basketball staff that the more you dig into it a little bit deeper, you see that was something that doesn't happen very often.
Well, and I think, I worked in Conference USA for a while, at UAB and some other schools. And, we always respected Marshall because of the support from the fans, number one, the traditions, and number 3, always had great teams. What is it you think sets Marshall apart from a lot of those schools at that level?
It is, I think, the fan base and the support.
Yeah.
In the state of West Virginia, when you talk about how big programs and teams are, WVU is number 1, has the numbers that Marshall doesn't have. But Marshall is number 2, and really there's no number 3. You don't have pro sports that have any kind of a big following. You have, after WVU and Marshall, nobody else in Division I. Most of the other schools are D2 or even NAIA. So Marshall has its niche and has a fan base that has the passion. And, I grew up around the SEC myself. I kind of have always described it to people as sort of a vest pocket size version of an SEC school because the town turns green, Kelly green on home game weekends, and everybody is a Marshall supporter. And you mentioned you've seen the atmosphere in the Cam Henderson Center at basketball.
Yeah.
It is hopping when the team's good, and football fans are great as well. There is tailgating. The campus is buzzing on game day. So it is a little different than a lot of schools that you might think of as Marshall's peers, I guess.
Talking with Steve Cotton, who is one of the best in the business, longtime play-by-play voice of the Marshall Thundering Herd. I think another thing with Marshall, just where you're located there, much closer to Ohio, WVU is just south of Pittsburgh there. It gives you a really unique place where you could go into Ohio, and I'm not saying you're necessarily going to beat out Ohio State to get a 5-star kid, but you could get some good players from Southern Ohio, and then obviously a lot of good players from West Virginia and that area.
That is something, and with the new coach, Tony Gibson, he's kind of staked out the state of West Virginia for sure. He plans on going head-to-head with the Mountaineers he says he's not conceding any of those guys to West Virginia University. And draw that map over, a couple of hours away, you hit Lexington, Kentucky. 2.5 hours to the north is Columbus, Ohio. He said, we're not giving up those areas. We're going to go in and fight for it and see what we can get done there. But Marshall has always recruited well in the South as well. There have been a lot of Georgians who have, we've got several who are in the Marshall Athletic Hall of Fame, a lot of Floridians. And that has always been kind of a place that Marshall was recruiting in that part of the world earlier than a lot of its peers. Now, pretty much everybody has coaches assigned to go recruit in the South now. But Marshall was doing that before it was common for, Mid-American Conference teams and the rest of Conference USA type teams to do that.
I wanted to mention, too, the run of quarterbacks you had. We talked about it. You've had Eric Kresser, Chad Pennington, and prior to that, Michael Payton, and, of course, my favorite, Todd Donnan. Coach Donnan's son, Todd, was a great, great player at Marshall.
Yeah, the Donnans are both in the Marshall Athletic Hall of Fame. Todd had to bide his time behind Michael Payton, you mentioned. He was the Walter Payton Award winner, as the then 1AA National Player of the Year in Marshall's first national championship season of 1992. Todd served as his backup for a couple of years, and then when Michael graduated, Todd led Marshall to a couple of deep playoff runs, and then he turned it over to a couple of injuries, made a skinny freshman named Chad Pennington the Marshall quarterback before he was ready. That was Coach Donnan's last year, 1995. And he took Marshall to the national championship game, a loss. And then Chad Pennington, who ended up being a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, did something that not many guys would do, because then Coach Donnan went to Georgia. Bob Pruitt, Marshall an alumnus, became the head coach after being Steve Spurrier's defensive coordinator at Florida. And he brought Eric Kresser along with him, who had been kind of stuck behind Danny Werfel those years at Florida. And Chad Pennington, who had taken his team to the championship game the year before, said, I am willing to take my redshirt year and let myself develop as a quarterback. Well, that was a magnanimous thing to do at the time. But then jump forward to the season where he would have been gone, 1999, instead by redshirting. He is a redshirt senior that year, and he led Marshall to a 13-0 record and a number 10 ranking in the final polls that year. So that whole era had many things work out well for the Thundering Herd. And that one decision that, hey, I'll take a redshirt year and let Eric Kresser be the quarterback, really was something that probably had a huge impact in Marshall history.
So you had and I never will forget that. So you had 5 years of Pennington / Kresser instead of 4. I thought it was one of the great unselfish decisions, team first decisions of all time. And then, that Randy Moss guy, they got to throw to him.
And then Chad's last 2 years, he had a backup quarterback named Byron Leftwich, who ended up being the highest draft pick of all of those guys.
Yeah.
I remember him getting carried down the field. Was that a bowl game when his teammates were carrying him down the field when he was injured?
No, that was the regular season game at the University of Akron, and took a big leg injury and went to the hospital. They took him in an ambulance to the hospital for x-rays. He came back and said, Coach, put me back in there. I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
And yeah, the offensive linemen are hauling him down the field because he's chucking 50-yard passes and completing them on one leg.
Don't need it. We'll talk a little bit about this year's team. You guys have a little bit of a quarterback battle. You've got the Syracuse transfer, Jacksonville State transfer, a freshman coming in. What can you tell us about that quarterback battle?
That's what it is, a battle.
Yeah.
Coach Gibson says, I'm not ready to name one because I don't know yet who's going to be the number one quarterback. Carlos Del Rio Wilson out of Cartersville High School was a top 20 quarterback recruit. Went to Florida, redshirted a year, then went to Syracuse. He started some at Syracuse, but never was able to hold on to the starting job all that long. But he's a guy with college experience. Zion Turner, as a true freshman, played against Marshall in the Myrtle Beach Bowl for the University of Connecticut. He transferred to Jacksonville State. Marshall's new offensive coordinator, Rod Smith, was at Jacksonville State and rejoins an old buddy in Tony Gibson when Gibson became the head coach here. So we've got a couple of quarterbacks with experience, and then a Marshall legacy, Ja'Kai Long. He caught his dad, Gerald, caught, I think, 7 touchdown passes as a wide receiver teammate with Randy Moss, and had Chad Pennington and those guys throwing to him. And he's from fairly nearby Hurricane, West Virginia. Spelled hurricane, but it's pronounced hurricane in these parts. And he was with the team last year as a redshirt, but Marshall has no quarterbacks who have ever thrown a pass wearing the Kelly green and white.
That's amazing. That's funny. I grew up in Mississippi. Both of us are small town guys. I grew up in Mississippi, South Georgia. We actually had a Hurricane, Mississippi, right next to my hometown there. So definitely understand that. So talk a little bit about 2004, Marshall's last trip to Athens. You were on that trip. What do you remember most about Athens and being between the hedges?
Well, what I remember most personally as a somewhat younger radio guy was getting to sit down with Larry Munson and talk things over before the game. And that was a thrill because I don't have to tell you anything about what kind of a legend he was.
Yeah.
But then the game itself, Marshall the previous week had played at Ohio State, which was ranked, I think, as high as number 8, depending on what poll. And Ohio State kicked a 55-yard field goal, a school record by Mike Nugent on the last play of the game to win it 24-21. So Marshall went to Georgia with some confidence. On the first play of the game, Marshall hit a 57-yard pass and kicked a field goal. So Marshall led that game 3-0. Now, that was over 1/3 of the total offense that Marshall would get that day. That Georgia defense was incredible, David Pollock and company and so on. But it ended up being a 13-3 game. Georgia scored, I think, a touchdown late in the first quarter and then kicked in maybe a field goal before halftime and then one later in the game. And Marshall had driven fairly late in the game into Georgia territory and went for it and didn't make it on 4th down. So Marshall was a team at that point that had, Bob Pruitt was in his final year then, his 9th year as the Marshall head coach. He had those guys believing that they were ready to go play toe-to-toe with anybody, and back-to-back against 2 top 10 teams. The Herd was 0-2, but came out of that saying, we have shown that Marshall is able to compete with the big boys.
Yeah, it was a great game, a classic defensive battle. The play I'll always remember from that, Steve, Georgia was up 10-3 in the third quarter. I think we turned the ball over, and Coach Pruitt went for it on a 4th down, and we had an All-American, one of my favorites, Thomas Davis, made a big play deep in the red zone, and that kept the lead at 7, and then Georgia went down, as you said, to go up by 10. But it was a beautiful day. It was a great game, and, one thing about Marshall, as Trey has said, and obviously you've been there for so long, your program has such a rich history there. You'll play anybody, anytime, which I always respect. Marshall's not going to be intimidated walking in between the hedges against Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs.
Yeah, now, of course, this is, we already said, more than 70 new guys on this team, but they come here knowing about the Marshall history and tradition, and that starts on their first day of camp with the somber part of Marshall's history. They run a couple of miles up to the cemetery where there's a memorial to the 1970 football team that perished in the plane crash. And so from day one at Marshall, newcomers are educated about what the school is, what it means to the community. And then, of course, a lot of happier memories like beating top 10 teams on the road at Kansas State, and just a couple of years ago winning at Notre Dame, which was in the top 10. So they have a bit of an attitude of, hey, Marshall's done it before. Let's see if we can put our names down in Marshall folklore as well.
Well, Steve, we thank you so much. That's very well said. We could talk for hours with Steve. Between the two of you, I think 60 years of combined experience on the radio between Jeff and Steve. No, but Steve, we really appreciate your insight into Marshall. As big sports fans ourselves, we've always respected, always admired the history and tradition at Marshall, and look forward to hosting you guys in a first-class way here in a couple of weeks. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, I get to make a rare trip between the hedges, so excited for that. And just in general for Marshall, there is so much new that we're
Yeah.
going to learn about this team the first time they go out there together.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much. You're one of the best in the business, and we can't wait to see you in Athens.
Thank you, Steve.
Sure thing, guys. We appreciate it.
All right, brother. Great show today. Really enjoyed that. Got a peek behind the curtain with Marshall, and also got to talk with Keidane McAlpine. Really, really enjoyed that. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go follow. You can either watch this show, watch this podcast, or other content just like it. Georgia Bulldogs Athletics on YouTube. Again, that's Georgia Bulldogs Athletics. Jeff, again, another fun show.
It was a lot of fun, and you do such a great job putting this together. I greatly appreciate it. And I know for me, I'm just excited to get another season going here.
Yeah.
I'm never one to wish away the summer, but I've found anytime we get inside of 2 weeks, I start
time.
itching. And it's probably like that for the football players too, because they've been knocking heads with each other. But to have soccer already underway, it's just a great, exciting time. And like I say, enjoy every day, because it'll be the end of May, and we'll be hoping that baseball's making it to Omaha
That's
before you know it,
right.
because one
Goes by
season
fast.
leads into another. But this is fantastic, and certainly can't wait to get it going between the hedges.
All right, brother. Well said. Go hit like, comment, subscribe. Georgia Bulldogs Athletics, wherever you find your podcast. Glory, Glory on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Go find it today. Thank you, and go Dogs.